Hey,
Good?
Harley, it's been a minute since we've seen each other.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff to talk about. The Houston Texans are out of their bye week, and they are looking to face the Carolina Panthers this Sunday. It would be the number one overall pick, Bryce Young, against the number two overall pick, CJ Stroud. And this is a very exciting game. But before we get into that, I think right now the state of the Houston Texans, you couldn't be more happy. You are as confident as you have been in a while. You believe this team is about to go on a potential run. I am excited for the second half of the season from this Houston Texans team.
Yeah, absolutely. Welcome in, everybody. Appreciate all of y'all joining the stream. Man, I am excited too. We're 3-3 going into the bye week, and you look ahead of the schedule. It's tough not to get excited. And this Texans team definitely has the whole city right now, the whole attention of the city right
Mhm.
now. As well as the Rockets, as they're down at halftime by 11 points down at halftime. So shout out to the Rockets trying to make it happen. It's not looking good so far for them, but the Houston Texans got the attention of the city. The Astros have let us down, but great season overall for them. It's not what we wanted.
How you feel about that?
Um, Absolutely horrible. I hate
Mm.
losing to an in-state rival, and I hate losing to the in-divisional rival. You combine both of that with the third thing is me talking insane amount of trash on YouTube, and they have found my video of when the Houston
No.
Astros swept the Texas Rangers in the regular season, 39-13 run differential. And they found that video, man. They found that compilation video of of basically that edit of saying, "Who's your daddy?" and and boy, they found it, and I appreciate it. Push it, push the comment section higher. Make sure you're liking, you're subscribing, and all that good jazz.
Yeah, once again, this episode is brought to you by Bet Online, guys. Shout out to Bet Online, but Harley, it was a tough series to watch.
Yeah.
You know, we are H Town till we drown.
Mm,
You cannot win a game at home, man.
drowning a
Garcia,
bit.
he absolutely just smacked you in the mouth. But enough about the Houston Astros. Their season is done. I think Dusty Baker is retiring,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So the Houston Astros will have a new manager. But the Houston Texans, it is their time. It is their moment. And I saw an article today. Once again, the Houston Texans are being labeled as potential buyers at the trade deadline. And the Panthers Wire, they put out four bold destinations for defensive and Brian Burns, and the Houston Texans were listed on there. What they asked in conversation: a first round pick this year, the one we own from the Cleveland Browns, and a third round pick, the one that we own from the Philadelphia Eagles, to get Brian Burns. We talked about the Houston Texans. Are they going to be buyers? Are they going to be sellers? What do you think about the possibility of adding Brian Burns? And shout out to another Texans podcast.
Shout out to them. Shout out to Believe in Panthers podcast. Everyone that catch the live stream. I appreciate y'all coming in there and invading Carolina's podcast. That was absolutely fantastic job by everyone. Drop a dub for everyone that just invaded the Carolina Panthers podcast. Make sure you are checking out the Believe in Texans podcast anywhere where you stream all your podcasts and platforms. If you missed it, I have 30 minutes of it where me and Ruben cut in and just started talking that noise about how the Texans going to whoop that ass. But let's get
You kind of
into it.
killed their
I
confidence.
am confident. I am very confident. I got shamed by someone on one of my comments saying that I shouldn't be talking this much noise about us winning against the Carolina Panthers because I predicted that we were going to win against the Falcons and we lost. So apparently, I have some magic juju over the Houston Texans winning or losing. I did not know
You know what
that.
comments I hate?
What is it?
The ones that are like, oh well, let's see them beat a real team. Let's not get too much excited right now. And I'm like, why not?
Exactly.
This Houston Texans team, no one expected them to be at this, to be in this spot. 500 at the bye and a favorable schedule the rest of the season. Man, this is the most exciting time it has ever been to be a Houston Texan. So of course I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited to get back to your Brian Burns question. That is a very interesting idea. I like Brian Burns. We have been mentioned and linked with the Carolina Panthers way back when we had Deshaun Watson at quarterback in the trade rumors in the links that maybe we could trade him to Carolina. And one of the guys that could have possibly been in return was a Brian Burns, Jeremy Chin, someone of that nature. And that would have been a very fine deal because getting Brian Burns, who is a legit pass rusher, adds and bolsters to your defensive line right now. The problem with the Texans is they haven't been able to create sacks. They've been able to manufacture pressure. It just hasn't generated enough sacks for this team. So Brian Burns could be a huge, huge get for the Houston Texans. Does it happen? Not quite sure at the moment.
Would you love if it happened?
Absolutely. Again, he is a legit pass rusher that you can have opposite of Will Anderson. And now you push Grenard, and nothing against Grenard. He's having a fantastic year so far for the Texans. But Brian Burns, a young defensive piece to pair with Will Anderson that potentially moves on from Grenard next year since he's a free agent. But yeah, I'm definitely excited about that potential, those rumors per se.
Yeah, no, and we are trying to bring Landry Locker. He will be joining us for a little bit today. Actually, there he is.
Hey, there we go.
What up? What
What's
up?
going
What
on?
is going on, Landry? Before we jump into the Texans, how do you feel about the Houston Astros losing to the Texas Rangers?
I mean, that was a stressful season. So I mean, I don't feel great about it, but I mean, it was a really stressful season. It feels like there's at least a rivalry brewing. I feel like we've needed like a legit rivalry between those two squads. So it kind of sucked, but I mean, that wasn't quite as smooth as we've been accustomed to. So yeah, it sucked though.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are joined by Landry Locker, one of the hosts on In the Loop on Sports Radio 610. Make sure you guys listen. I mean, one of my favorite shows. I've been listening for years, 10 to 2. If you listen, you are a loophole. Landry, thank you for joining us. I'm going to go ahead and let Harley take off.
All right, go ahead.
So what's going on, man? First of all, what's going on?
What's up? Hanging, dude. Just hanging.
Let's get into this. This is fun to finally have you on the podcast. We've been bugging you for a while, so shout out to you for coming on and hanging out with us. I just saw this clip like maybe 30 minutes ago, and I just thought it was pretty hilarious. And I don't know if any of y'all have seen this yet, but CJ Stroud was with Bussin' with the Boys podcast. And one of the clips I just saw was apparently CJ Stroud. I got to read it again. He gets fined $1,000 for every time he is on television. And I'm assuming the details behind this is the players are rookie hazing him. That's what I am assuming. I haven't read too much into it. What do you think about this, man? He's getting fined $1,000. I mean, my goodness.
Yeah. I think it's kind of just like one of those rookie jokes. That was the context because I listened to the whole thing, and I think it's pretty much just all love, kind of messing with him a little bit, giving him a hard time because he's getting all the attention. What I make of it is he's probably had to give up about $10K then because he seems like he's on TV all the time. Seems like he's on like every show. So I just look at it as kind of the guys having fun with him. But man, 1,000, geez, I feel like they should have to give you 1,000 for getting on TV.
My goodness. That's rough, man. Goodness gracious, that is rough.
He can afford it. He
Oh
can
yeah,
afford it.
for sure.
I mean, he might rack up, I think, about 30 to 40 more if he keeps on playing the way he has. Landry, you like to critique, performances at the podium. And I want to ask, how do you grade CJ Stroud? Because for me, he is just the perfect interviewer. Answers every question professionally, doesn't, rarely messes up. Just what do you think about him when he steps up to the mic?
I think he's one of the best that I've ever watched. As far as the Texans, it's been something that has just been. He just seems kind of beyond his years. It seems authentic. There's always like a real insightful answer. I called it like awkward humility. There's like humility there that's not like awkward, like fake or anything. It's just you can tell he's really like honored whenever he gets to speak and stuff. So I just think like as far as like a representative of an organization, I thought it was interesting because at camp they had Mills, speak before him, and it kind of, there was like, where the hell is CJ? I think that took like a week and a half, 2 weeks. I remember I was there. I think it was like a Saturday or Sunday when he spoke the first time, and I talked to some people at Ohio State that covered him, and they were like, "Why would you do that? Like that's what he's best at." And I mean, he's just a really good. He's a good representation of the organization, and I think he's making everyone out there's at the at the stadiums and in the organization's job a lot easier.
Mm.
I mean, we were just talking about me and Ruben were just talking about buying or selling, and Ruben has been on me for days, weeks now. It's piling up to weeks. Are the Houston Texans buyers or sellers? And he I know it hurts him every time because I keep saying, just stay pat, man. Just keep going with what you're doing. Locker, are we buying or selling, man?
I'm it depends what you're buying. I like Chase Young
Thank
a
you.
lot. I don't know if he fits into the system, but I don't know what the price is, but like all these trades that I've seen, it's been like, a third and something, which I think is kind of a little bit of a steal, depending on what D'Amico thinks about him in the system. But he's 24 years old. He was a number 2 pick. It was between him and Burrow. People will say, well, he's had trouble staying healthy. Well, he tore his ACL, and then they had like the caution like type of year where they kind of shut him down on the back end. Before that, though, he was Defensive Player of the Year. I think he was a captain the first 2 years. This year, I think he has 5 sacks in 6 games. I don't know that guys of that talent really even hit the market as much. And I also think that if you're talking about an edge guy, it's kind of like a chess move and not just a rental, because you have the extra money and you have Grenard and Jerry Hughes, who are going to be free agents next year. So you're going to have to find someone to put opposite of Will Anderson anyways. So, I mean, if you could get Chase Young or someone on the edge or something like that that you think could be, more than a 1 year piece, I think he'd be fine. I also think he has pretty good makeup. I don't know that I've heard too much bad about him. I know when I watched him on a shop interview, I think it was. I think he was with LeBron and them, and it was pretty impressive. So like just the way that he sounded and stuff. But I mean, it'd probably come down to fit and stuff. I don't see why he wouldn't fit, and I just don't think he's played his best football yet. So I'm a Chase Young guy. I heard y'all talking about Burns before I got here. I like Burns. He's a really good player. My thing is, I think they said that the Rams offered him 2 1s last year and they said no, which we know the Rams like to just give away draft picks. So maybe that's just kind of more of a Rams thing. But that tells me that they either probably should have taken that deal or they're going to be asking a lot for him, because when I heard that, I was like, damn, 2 1s, that's pretty steep. But I like Chase Young. I don't think they should trade for a receiver. I don't think,
Agree.
Jerry Jeudy picks up like I don't know that they have like a true number 1 right now, but I would like to see, Nico continue his chemistry with CJ and Tank and Mechie and all these guys. So I wouldn't necessarily want a receiver, but if you can get someone to help you out in the interior, I would be a buyer for sure
Mm.
at the right price.
It's just crazy to even talk about this, right? Last year at this time, the season was already over for the Houston Texans. Landry, you were out there at training camp. We got to see you there multiple times. From training camp to now, how do you grade this young Houston Texans team? 3-3 at the bye and three very impressive wins over Pittsburgh, Jacksonville, and recently the New Orleans Saints.
I mean, I think you have to be pretty pleased with where they are right now at 3-3. Now, they got to win this Carolina game because I think it's important for a number of reasons. It's CJ versus Bryce, and it's a team that you're favored 3.5, whatever, 4 points on the road, which that's going to be few and far between. But I think you would have to give them at least an A or a B or something like that, unless you want to get greedy and go back and say, they should have beat Atlanta or whatever. But I think right now you have to give them an A. You're feeling good about them. You got the quarterback, it appears, and you appear to have the head coach too. So I don't see how anyone could give them anything less than a B plus.
Yeah, that's pretty. I mean, we're 3-3. Look, man, last 2 years, I don't even know if we were included in the round of 32 teams, man. It's been rough there with the Houston Texans. It's been absolutely rough. But I am happy that they are on the right track. Absolutely ecstatic. I'm not happy. I'm ecstatic. I'm elated. I'm looking at this team right now, and I looked at the injury report, and I'm going, there seems like there's a constant, and I don't necessarily get an answer as to what is up with Juice Scruggs, our center rookie, man. What is going on?
I have no idea. I guess they said he was making progress. I don't know what Juice Scruggs fits, even if he is healthy. Like that's my thing. Like I don't, when you say, where is Juice? Even if he was healthy, I would be asking where is Juice? Are you going to put him at center? Patterson's been pretty good. Are you going to put him at guard? I know he was working at guard in camp, I think with like the second team or something. So I don't know how they're even going to try to fit him in. As far as how hurt he is or anything like that, I have no idea. But I am very intrigued to see, what they want to do in that when he does come back, and if he's even starting or if he's just suited up. I don't know how that whole thing's going to work. They obviously liked him a lot. I think he probably would have been starting, but I think Patterson's been kind of a little bit of a pleasant surprise. I mean, I'm sure you get real nerdy into the stats, and you're like, his run blocking's not as good and all that. But I mean, he's a rookie, so that could be the same thing with Juice, So I don't know like when they expect him to come back, but my thing is I don't know where he fits in when he is back, and is he far behind because he's going to be 7 games behind? Do they want to bring in a new center? Is it just a depth thing? I don't know.
Yeah, another player that we want to ask about who has been kind of unpleasant so far, Dameon Pierce. Not the second season that we were expecting. And based off the game against the New Orleans Saints, we saw a split carry between him and Devin Singletary. How do you think the Houston Texans handle their rushing game going forward? Do we continue to see a running back by committee, or does Dameon Pierce somehow figure it out?
Well, committee was what D'Amico said that he wanted initially, and I've always believed that Dameon Pierce is kind of like a 1B type of guy. I don't think he's a bell cow back. He wasn't that at Florida. He had double-digit carries, I think 6 or 7 times at Florida. Last year, they tried to use him as one, and he kind of wore down. I think he's going to probably have to be a little bit more patient, which might not be his style. But I think we see probably a little bit similar to what we saw last game where it was, I think it was 12-13, if I'm not mistaken. That's what, 12-13. I think that's what we see. And then there's no shame in that. Like that, he can be Dameon Pierce he fits in. Like he's someone that you want on your football team. He just might not be, if you drafted him in your fantasy draft in the second round or something like that, you're probably pissed off. But if you didn't, then I think you're okay with it. So I think we see a little bit of the same, and I think we might see a better version of him because he's a hardworking guy. I don't think he's going to mope, and I think he'll be fine. I think at the end of games is when he's going to be the most valuable because nobody wants to play. I mean, like he's just rough. Like I mean, you saw him against Atlanta where he wasn't doing anything, and then he's going in there at the end, and no one really wants to get in the hole and meet him there. I think he's a perfect closer type of back. So I think we see Pierce and Singletary a little bit similar of a mix. I think it's going to be based on feel, but he's definitely going to have to change the way that he runs and maybe be a little bit more patient. And who knows, with the offensive line being together a little bit longer, maybe it's a little bit easier for him to do that.
Yeah, Dameon Pierce has definitely been a little tough, and I was very high on him. I really thought that we didn't get to see enough of him, obviously, at Florida and whatever the hell they did with him. But now it's starting to go, maybe there's a little more chew to that bone than we thought, and it's been a little tough for me personally. I'm a huge Dameon Pierce fan. Met him a few times. He's a really good guy.
Dude.
So really good dude. He's hilarious.
Country as hell is what he is. That's definitely. We've had him on the show a couple times. I mean, it's impossible not to like Dameon Pierce. He's a good back to have. Just don't know if he's, the bell cow that we hoped.
Tank Dell returned to practice. Definitely a huge plus for this Texans team. And then we had Robert Woods, not practice. So addition by subtraction, the Houston Texans wide receiver group was something that the Believe in Panthers, we were just on a crossover with them yesterday with Jonathan Stewart, Desmond Johnson, a few of them guys. Shout out to them. And they were raving about Tank Dell. They are constantly raving about him. And what are your thoughts so far with the U of H product? He has been absolutely amazing in my eyes. What are you looking at when you see him?
Well, I think Robert, I don't think is going to practice on Wednesday all year. I think they're giving him veteran days, which sometimes happens, but I don't think he's practiced on Wednesday for a while. So I think he'll be fine to go. They're just kind of giving him like that OG rest treatment. As far as Tank goes, I think it's a pleasant surprise because I think a lot of people, kind of stereotyped him as, oh, this guy's going to be in the slot the whole time. He's going to be kind of a gadget guy. He's going to be your punt returner. And we're going to see how it works out. But I think he's lining up on the outside, at least early in the season. It was like over 70, 80% of the time or something like that. So I think that's been a real pleasant surprise. Hell, the play he got hurt, that was the first third down conversion they had against Atlanta. And that was what got them in field goal range where they stole those points at the end of the half. So I've been pleasantly surprised with Tank Dell. I think he's a nice compliment with Nico. I think he's a good deep threat. And he's not just, a one-trick pony slot type of guy. So you have to be pleased with what you're getting from Tank Dell at this point. Kind of intrigued to see how those guys gel now that you have – it kind of feels like Dalton Schultz has been freed up by Tunsil being there and stuff. So we've seen Dalton Schultz kind of getting open a little bit more. But once you have all those guys gelling, it'll be really interesting to see, if that holds up. Because, Nico Collins, I think, is first in yards after the catch right now in the league. I think Tyreek Hill fell back a little bit. So, I'm intrigued to see how Tank holds up, because even when he got hurt, it wasn't like someone hit him or something. I know every time something happens to like Bryce Young or Tank Dell, it's gonna be, well, look at that side, look at the small. But I mean, he just landed on his head on his own. So I don't think the size has been a problem, and he's been everything you can expect and more.
Yeah, staying with the wide receiving core, Nico Collins, coming into this season, everyone was wondering, what is he going to be for the Houston Texans? And we asked you, Landry Locker, has he shown you that he could potentially be a number one wide receiver for this team?
For this team, yes. Does that, what is that? Like, does that mean that, like, at the end of the season, you're not going to feel like you need like a top end receiver? I don't know. Do I feel like you should be comfortable with Nico being your number one receiver? I haven't gotten there yet. I like very much what I've seen from Nico. I think it's impossible not to. The one thing he does like to do is he likes to block his ass off. And that's something that you have to do in this system. And it's not like, he's just out there blocking and not making plays. He's made some of the biggest plays of the season. So, I mean, I don't mean any disrespect, like saying that, I don't know that he's like, someone that you feel great about being your number one receiver. But I think on this team, yes, he can absolutely be number one. And we'll see how it holds up. Right now, I think it's as good of a start as you could hope for. I do want to see if teams are going to man him up a little bit more. I know Atlanta did. So we'll see how they cover him. But CJ clearly trusts him. And I mean, he's running after he catches the ball. I said it like a couple times, and I kind of caught myself like, okay, like, am I getting out of like, he looks like Debo Samuel when he catches the ball and runs afterwards. And that sounds stupid, but I mean, he leads the league in yards after catch. So like, what am I like? What like? It can't be like that's just what he's look like. Like there's a lot of yak there as soon as he catches the ball and he runs angry and stuff. And so, yeah, I mean, I think he can be the number one receiver on this team. Yes, would I bet on? I could see him being a really, really, really good number two. And there's a lot of really, 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 really good number twos that could be number ones elsewhere. But you have to be pleased with what you've seen from Nico, big time.
I'm excited about Nico. A lot of the YouTube comments for me just hate I don't think Nico Collins is a number one wide receiver. And people are just go crazy in my YouTube comments. Like, well, have you not been watching the games? Like, no, I've watched the games. Like, it's nothing against them or anything, but I'm similar in the mindset of, okay, well, he looks really good. Is this just a benefactor of CJ Stroud? Or is this going to be something consistent moving forward? Like I'm still in question with him, and I'm looking at other wide receiver ones, and I'm like, okay, is he up there at least in the top 15 in terms of wide receiver ones? Statistically, sure, but are we going to get him into that category? Is he pushing that bottom half of the top 10 in wide receiving ones? I don't know. I don't have an answer for that.
Yeah, I mean, and I think, like the Jags had Christian Kirk who did what he did last year, and they still traded for Calvin Ridley, and they still hope that, that would be the one. So yeah, I think Nico's doing a really good job. I think they've at least got some really, really good complementary pieces. Maybe they get to a point like Burrow was in year 2 and Trevor Lawrence year 2, where they're like, hey, we got to get them more weapons. The Bengals went and got Chase, and then the Jags had that one-off season where they signed a few guys, and then they signed Ridley after. So, yeah, I think Nico's doing a really, really good job. Just the fact that that's even a question, I think, kind of speaks to how far he's come in a short time.
Yeah, and then moving to the Houston Texans defense. Shout out to the 43 people in here. We are joined by Landry Locker from Sports Radio 610 in the loop. Make sure you guys are liking today's episode. What are your thoughts on the Houston Texans defense? They are putting pressure on the QB about 40% of the time. They are leading one of the league leaders in that category, but only 9 sacks on the season. Also, one of the teams that blitzes the least. I'm very encouraged by this Houston Texans defense despite the 9 sacks.
Yeah, and I think that the I wouldn't put as much stock in the lack of blitzing as as like I would have in the past, like, because they've been thin in the secondary. Like, I mean, they win a couple of games without Ward. They won a couple of games without Petrie. They had the game against Atlanta where they didn't have Shaq, they didn't have Tremont, they didn't have Stingley. So what are you going to do? Blitz and like leave those guys on an island? So I wouldn't put as much stock in the blitz. They do need to get the quarterback a little bit more. But I actually think the defense, I was talking about this today. I think the defense, like the arrow is pointing up. I think the defense is going to be a lot better after the first 6, and they've been a lot better than they were last year. The offense, I'm keeping a close eye on. I'm kind of grading on a curve because I think they've kind of surpassed what realistic expectations are. But I mean, they're fundamentally sound. I know there's stats that talk about like missing tackles. The thing is, though, like with the missed tackles, they're doing that swarm. That like I know that that's kind of like the buzzword there, but there's a lot of guys around to make the tackles. So I'm not really like discouraged by the defense. I think they're fighting as hard as they can and they're doing their thing. And I don't expect them to be an elite defense, but I think it'll be a little bit better. I do think that'll be kind of an emphasis next year. It feels like they can like fill in holes in the offseason. We're not like too focused on like I think we'll be able to narrow down what the actual needs are a lot easier than last year where you could just throw a dart at a board and it land on any position and you need that. So I'm not too concerned about the D.
I do like that Hassan Ridgeway is going to be returning, designated from return. Huge game against the Baltimore Ravens against the run. He's definitely going to aid the run defense that has been, somewhat of a problem for this Houston Texans team. And this doesn't bode well for an injured, winless Carolina Panthers team. The Texans are slowly getting healthier and healthier. I am leaning towards a lot of excitement for the rest of the schedule and what is going on. It's tough not to look into the rest of the schedule and start circling November 26th against the Jaguars, man. It's fun to get excited about this team again.
Oh, you're looking ahead, huh?
It's
You're looking ahead. You're in that danger
no, I
zone,
sure
man.
am. I do it all the time with all my sports teams. That's just fandom is, fan is short for fanatic. And I'm looking at it, man. 3-3, you're looking at the future. Could you potentially be 6-4 and they're 7-3 and you're competing for first place of the division November 26th? I'm excited to hear all of that.
Yeah, and I think you should be. And I'm hoping that by the time that happens, that we have a full house at NRG. I think we're getting there. I think we're getting closer. They have the stage now. The Astros are kind of out of their way. And I mean, I know that people have been kind of reluctant, but it would be nice if by the time you get to that, people are kind of a little bit on board, and there's a rowdy house there. I think that the schedule was laid out perfect for me because after the Colts game, I was like going on a rant on the air, and I was like, "Man, I don't want to I need a break from this place. I don't want to go here consecutive weeks. I'm so glad the schedule's laid out to where I don't have to go to that hellhole like the last like next week." So they had the home road, and then they're gonna have a few consecutive home games after that. So it's kind of laid out. But now I think this kind of adds to your point. I'm not looking as far ahead, but I'm kind of disappointed that I don't get to go there, and I haven't, I want to go to NRG this weekend. So I'm finding myself, wanting to be there. And I always want to be there, but you know what I mean? You want to go watch the actual game and the product, and it matters to where, it's not an awkward rebuild where you're churning the roster. Rex Burkhead is getting 15, 20 carries a game, and it's all for nothing. So it is fun. It is fun to at least be excited to go back up there. But I don't, if they can win this, I just want the winning record outside looking in. Pittsburgh plays Jacksonville. See, I've already kind of started looking at the wild card. I know people are kind of like looking at the division. For me, I would have been fine with Indianapolis beating Cleveland because I'm looking at the wild card. Like I'm already looking kind of at the wild card. You're a game back. So that's where I'm at. And if you're winning games, the Jacksonville thing will take care of itself. I've taken a step back on Jacksonville because, man, 4 wins in 19 days or whatever the hell it was, and 2 of them in London is really impressive. And I know that the Texans kicked their butt in Jacksonville, but I mean, they've responded quite nicely with those 4 wins, and now they got Pittsburgh. So we'll see how it goes, but I'm looking at the wild card for right now.
And it starts with the win on Sunday. Do you have any early predictions you could give us?
I think this is going to be a borderline kind of like a little bit of a surprising shootout. I think it's going to be a little bit back and forth between CJ and Bryce. I watched Bryce's press conference today. He seems pretty giddy about it. Their O-line does suck though. Their receivers aren't as good. They got a guy that's calling plays for the first time now. Frank Reich was talking about that. So I don't know how that's going to look, how that's going to work. You already have like the second different play caller for a rookie quarterback in his 7th game. So there is that. But I think we'll get moments from both of them. I think they'll both play well. But I think the Texans will get the job done. I just don't know if it's just going to be like something that they run away with. I think it'll be a fun game.
I'm believing Panthers. We were pretty loud, and Jonathan Stewart didn't like some of that disrespect that we were throwing to the Carolina Panthers. That
What was Jonathan Stewart
so
saying?
basically they're
Tell
they're
him, Harley.
they're 0-6, and what they were saying was, oh well, we just need. He was saying, this is out of the horse's mouth. Said that, well, we just need some more time. We got a rookie quarterback. We got a young coaching staff. Sure, we got a veteran head coach, but it's going to take some time for everything to gel together. Which, sure, he could be absolutely right. But then I'm looking at our situation and I'm going, hey, we got a rookie head coach, rookie quarterback, rookie OC, numerous amount of injuries, just as much as the Panthers. And, I'm like, I would think someone with a veteran head coach in Frank Reich, Ejiro Evero, who's the defensive coordinator there, did a really good job with the Broncos just last year. Even after trading Bradley Chubb, the defense was still ranked very highly. He's there. Thomas Brown was someone even the Houston Texans took a look at for head coach way back in the offseason. Stems from the Sean McVay, tree or whatever you want to call that. We haven't seen him per se call plays. I say per se because they have their conspiracy theories over there in Carolina. That's how bad it is right now. They're 0-6, and they got conspiracy theories going on as to they think Thomas Brown maybe has been calling the plays the whole time, but it wasn't ever announced. I don't know. It's a lot of wild stuff going over there in Carolina.
Yeah, and I mean they traded DJ Moore, they traded McCaffrey. They've got an interesting situation going on there. And I do think it's I that's the same thing I said about the Colts, when the Texans were playing the Colts. I was, it was, they got a first year coach, they got a first year quarterback when Richardson was there. So it's kind of like similar situations. And it's not like, you're the only winless team. You're not the only team that, has that type of situation. So
Landry Locker, we want to thank you for being a part of today's episode as we went through the bye week. They gave a small preview this matchup against the Carolina Panthers. Thank you so much, Landry. Let everyone know where they could get your latest content at.
Locker Room on YouTube and Sports Radio 610 / the Odyssey app. Also on YouTube and Twitch, Sports Radio 610. As of recent.
Shout out to Twitch. Might have to get on that. Twitch or Rumble or Kick, one of those, whichever one pays them more. But I am Ruben Carvillo. That is Harley Dugan. Believe in the Houston Texans at the lead _Houston on Twitter at 713HSP for me. Guys, thank you so much for being part of today's episode. You have a very blessed day. And just give me 1 second.